Hi, I'm Frank Masiosi for Hometown TV, and I'm here with my good friend, Jordan Glatt. Jordan, good to see you.
Good seeing you, Frank.
Okay. And we are here to interview the three Democratic candidates for Common Council this year. We will take turns asking questions from a list on which both of us have agreed, alternating among candidates. You are free to elaborate on your running mate's responses. There will be no time limit, but we will encourage you to be succinct because overall time is limited to 30 or 40 minutes. If we feel you're taking too much time answering the question, we will ask you to wrap it up. The objective is for voters to get to know you. The show will be aired without being edited for content after the candidates of both parties have been interviewed. Disparaging comments about your opponents will not be allowed. And with that, let me ask you to introduce yourselves.
I'm Jacqueline LaSaracina, running for Summit Council in Ward 1.
I'm Chantal Landman. I'm running for council in Ward 2.
And I'm Dan Crisafulli, running for the at-large seat.
So, Jordan, you want to kick it off with the first question?
First question. So, Jacqueline, what do you feel is the biggest issue facing Summit?
That's a big question. Well, first, thank you both, and thank you to HTTV for hosting this forum. I believe we need to get back to basics. I think the biggest issue facing Summit is the lack of fiscal responsibility. We've had 2 consecutive years of, in my view, unnecessary tax increases. When we don't have priorities-based budgeting, when we don't have budget line items that align to a vision and a strategic priority set by our leadership, we have guesswork and runaway spending. That becomes an affordability issue for our neighbors, right? If we have tax increase on tax increase, it becomes ever more expensive to live in Summit. We need real fiscal responsibility at City Hall. We need to get the budget under control and make it more affordable to live and stay in Summit.
And I think, just to add to that, putting needs ahead of wants in the budget process next year. We've already been signaled by this current council that next year's budgeting process is going to be quite difficult. And so we're going to have to make tough decisions.
Okay, thank you. Chantal, the city's infrastructure is aging. What would you prioritize for attention?
For me, it's clear we need to focus on stormwater management as our first priority in the infrastructure. We've experienced lots of flooding and erosion all over the city, but especially along the Salt Brook this past year. And I think rather than spending money to fix or put Band-Aids on the problem at one homeowner's house, we should be investing in fixing the stormwater issue upstream. There are some interesting solutions we can put into place, and I'd actually turn to Dan, who is working with other municipalities now to come up with some good ideas for the city.
Thanks, Chantal. I'm part of a group that is convened just this past week among local towns in our region to understand what each other is doing, get best practices, and move forward either individually or potentially together for a more cost-effective solution. The idea is that it's a big problem, but we need to break it down into pieces that are digestible, both for our budget and for our neighbors to understand, between zoning issues, but also investing in infrastructure upstream that keeps the water closer to the source, absorbed into the ground and released more slowly so we don't have these dramatic runoffs.
So, Dan, with 564 municipalities in New Jersey, the concept of sharing services has long been appealing. What opportunities do you see, or all of you see, for shared services in Summit?
Well, shared services should be part of every capital budget decision that the city makes. I want to have a clear and transparent process with criteria. I would put safety first as a top criterion. I would have, we could also create other criteria such as economic vitality for our downtown, saving money, public-private partnerships. Shared services should be part of that analytical framework, and that question should be asked for everything that we do, from an equipment purchase that we use it twice a month. We could be renting it out or perhaps purchasing it jointly. I think it should be baked into everything we do.
I agree, and all of us on the panel here have corporate executive experience, and when we think about people, process, and infrastructure, absolutely. When we are planning for people, we should always ask, is this an opportunity for shared services? My caution would be we should not be penny wise and pound foolish. We heard from Chief Peters last night that there has been an uptick in violent crime, for example. He talked about an increase also in mental health issues. I feel that when we invest in public safety, supporting our police means giving them a great support team. I've advocated for a dedicated social worker in Summit because we are seeing those mental health calls. It would be excellent to provide that supplemental support to our police. So yes, shared services are important, an important part of fiscal responsibility, but we also need to consider other resources.
Great.
Okay. Jacqueline, the next question is for you. Summit's municipal debt has risen significantly over the years, and debt service is now one of the largest line items in the budget. Do you see the current level of municipal debt as a problem? And if so, what would you do to address this problem?
Another great question. And the debt kind of goes hand in hand with my response to the prior question of bringing real fiscal responsibility back to Summit. As Chantal noted, the importance of prioritizing needs over wants. We need to invest in stormwater management. We need to make sure that we are properly funding our schools to protect the excellence of our public education program, and so on. To address the debt, I mean, that's borrowing against our children, right? We all hope that our children love Summit as much as we do, and they choose to stay here or come back after they may go away for school. So as a promise to them, we need to get smarter about budgeting. And I think it starts small and getting back to the basics of priorities-based budgeting. When year over year we have an opportunity to look at the new budget, we need to remember this is the community's money. It doesn't belong to City Hall, it belongs to the community. We need to be really conscientious about what we're spending on, because again, we may be borrowing against our children.
So I would just add that the current council has increased the capital budget from about 1.9 million to over 5 million a year over a 2-year period. That to me is unsustainable. And my focus on transparency in ranking and selecting capital projects, and these are the projects that typically we're borrowing in the bond market to finance, that ultimately will affect our credit rating if we go too far. And furthermore, once those projects have been approved, we need a system that tracks them, reports them transparently to the public so they can see how we're doing versus budget and how we're doing versus the timeline that council has agreed. So we need fiscal rigor, but also transparency to rebuild trust in government.
Chantal, do you think Summit's police department is adequately staffed?
It's hard to say from the outside, but I will say this. We've done a very good job supporting our police department. Over the past 2 years, we've added 4 headcount police officers to their staff. And until those officers are embedded fully, trained and working, it's hard to make that assessment as to whether we need more staff. One thing I will say that we do need to do is explore more tech or, as the chief calls it, engineering solutions for our police department. Things that we can do to invest in tools and resources rather than as a support for our people so that it can be more effective at their jobs.
So I would maybe add 2 things to that. One, we have top quality police department run by professionals. I'm not going to micromanage how they run the department. We will provide oversight, guidance, and support, but I'm not going to pretend to know Chief Peters' job better than he does. So we're there to support him and strengthen. I will also say that the public has a role. We had a home invasion on my block just a few months ago. My mother was living downstairs, my elderly mom was living downstairs in our home, and that was very unquieting for me to know that she was at risk when we had home invaders roaming our neighborhood. Officer Katiga came out and did a security assessment of our home, which was excellent, and we're putting in place the measures that he recommended in his very detailed assessment, and that's available to the public. He's a busy man, but that is on their website. I really encourage people to sign up for that and then take the measures themselves to also protect their homes.
Dan, this one's for you. The city's court-ordered affordable housing obligation has been a challenge for previous councils. What is your vision of how the city ought to address this obligation?
So current council is currently wrestling with that, and I wish them luck. I will work to defend Summit against overdevelopment. And part of that is doing our fair share so that we are not sued under the current framework. If we do not have an acceptable plan to the court, there is something called builder's remedy, in which the builders can build whatever they want. And one of them wants to build an 8-story tower right on our village green. And that's not acceptable. Council President McTurnan last night said there's a process by which they're negotiating with the courts and the developers to find some kind of agreement here. I would like to have more transparency around that dialogue so that the community is kept informed of what these plans are and we're not blindsided by development that we're not happy with.
I would add, I think there are two parallel streams that should be happening contemporaneously. First, we need to make a good faith effort to comply with the affordable housing laws as we reasonably understand them. We also, of course, need to strenuously defend against these builder remedy lawsuits. If either one of them were to succeed against our town, it will dramatically change the character of Summit, straining our infrastructure, our schools, and so on. At the same time, Summit is in a position to work actively with Trenton to build trusted relationships and to advocate for change. We all understand there's a lot of opportunity for improvement in our affordable housing laws. We need to do that work also, not just complain about Trenton or send attorneys down to whine about the timeline. We need to get more proactive and try to remain in control of our development destiny.
Great, thank you. Jacqueline, do you believe Tatlock Field should be lit? And this is really a yes or no for each of you.
Yes, it is my fervent hope that with an improved process over an appropriate amount of time, Tatlock Field can be lighted in a way that both serves our sport community and also respects the very legitimate concerns that have gone unaddressed to this point from the neighborhood.
I'm a Summit sports mom. I very much want the field lit. I want three things to happen first. I want us to resolve the litigation against the city. I want us to budget for it in the right way. And then lastly, I want to make sure that we are thoughtful about how we balance the needs of the Tatlock neighborhood, or respectfully respond to the needs of the Tatlock neighborhood as part of this. But I'm optimistic and hopeful that we can make that happen, and soon.
I would say a fervent yes. I would also add that my opponent has been at this for almost 2 years now. He's met with the community numerous times, I think 5 times, as he described it last night. But they haven't taken the community's concerns and done anything about it. And yes, they're beginning to address the traffic issues, but there are other issues that frankly aren't that hard to put in place. And the result is the city's getting sued, we are getting sued. And I think, a more thoughtful approach rather than just let's get the lights done at all costs would have actually gotten us there sooner.
Gotcha.
Chantal, pedestrian safety has been a perennial problem in Summit. What would you do to improve pedestrian safety?
So I think there's a couple things we can do. The first is investment in sidewalks. So we do have a sidewalk plan. The city recently revealed some changes to the plan with the public, which is an awesome step. They even did this cool color-coded sheet so you could see where in your neighborhood the highest priority sidewalks are going in. But there are still some places where kids are unable to walk safely to school. Glenside Avenue is an important one. I know that's not a city street, it's a county street, but we need to figure out a solution to get that done. There were promises made and since broken. So we need to invest in sidewalks. I'm also a big fan of the flashing crossing. I know in my neighborhood by Franklin School, kids use that very important crosswalk flashing light to cross Springfield. And we need more of those around town. They're very effective and relatively inexpensive and self-sufficient. And then lastly, and this one is sort of a new issue, and that is these e-bikes. So, I was talking to a resident recently who was concerned about kids using e-bikes without helmets going 30 miles an hour down her street. And while that's a safety issue for those kids, it's also a safety issue for pedestrians who are trying to cross intersections when these kids come on e-bikes. So we need to do more work around best practices and how to educate families on the risks associated with them and how we're protecting our residents.
And I would just add that we need to be creative in how we finance these improvements. They're expensive. And there are federal cuts that are coming down. The Glenside sidewalks were approved and then cut. We need to be building bridges with the county and with the state and being creative about how and even some public-private partnerships could come into place here. But I would make that a top priority.
Just very quickly, pedestrian and bicycle safety is one of the top issues we're hearing on front porches and around kitchen tables. We need traffic calming measures. The sidewalk's really important. Another component of that is trying to get our drivers to slow down. And there are some very low cost yet effective things that we can do relatively quickly, such as just painting a series of horizontal lines across the road. That's a visual cue that encourages drivers to slow their speed.
Thank you. So Dan, Maplewood and South Orange have experienced ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement raids in the past several weeks. As a member of council, what would your response be if this happened in Summit?
Well, I would say that I put Summit first. Safety and security of our community depends on our residents trusting the police. If there's an issue in a neighborhood, they should be able to call their police without fear of being deported, right, for our local police. And I think that's really important for our community. If people don't feel they can call the cops, you have rising crime and the potential for gangs to come into our town. So I think that's a very important principle. And clearly, criminals who are undocumented, who do not have the proper status, should be dealt with appropriately. And we have to control our borders. But here in Summit, we need to protect our interests too.
A priority for me, I have 2 young children, we all have children, is investing in the safety of what used to be considered safe spaces, right? Under prior federal administrations, there would not be immigration enforcement at places like schools, child care centers, and hospitals. That policy position has since been changed since January of this year. So a priority for me would be working with our local law enforcement and those centers, our principals, our child care centers, our hospitals, to make sure that when people are in those sacred, safe spaces, houses of worship, that they know that they are safe against immigration enforcement. I also hope that our current leadership team is getting ready to secure our elections on November to ensure that people of all different backgrounds and regardless of the language they may speak at home or where their grandmother was born, that they feel comfortable going to exercise their right to vote.
Okay. This one is for Jacqueline. What are your thoughts on redevelopment in the area of our downtown where the old firehouse was located?
Yes, that's a great question. So it's been about 2.5 years, and when I think about the old firehouse site, a few things come to mind. One is tax hole, right? That it's really valuable land in a great location, and under the current leadership team, nothing has been done with that. That there's a really high opportunity cost, right? We're losing, what could be valuable funds back to the city because that land is just sitting there doing nothing. It's one of the only remaining developable city-owned pieces of land in Summit. We need a plan for it. The other thing that comes to mind is opportunity, right? It is a great space. There's a lot that could be done, thinking about our vision and our legacy of this moment in time in Summit, what we hope Summit will look like 5, 10, 20 years from now. I have been a supporter of the At Home in Summit proposal, which was a nonpartisan group of volunteers who came together with what I think is a very sensible, modest proposal for about 40 units of dedicated affordable housing. And that would, to the prior response, make a good faith effort of honoring our obligations under current affordable housing laws. It was beautifully designed. I think it fits very neatly within the character of our downtown, very close to our bus, train stations, the Y, the connection, et cetera. So that is what I would wish to see at that site.
And if I may add, regardless of how we develop the site, I think there's an intention that there will be some retail or community space in that development. And we've heard from a lot of residents who would love to have either a small grocery store of some kind, a theater, or other art space in that location that could service also the senior housing nearby. And so that's something we want to take community input on before we proceed.
Well, could I just add to that? There is a process underway to assemble the property. They're purchasing and swapping to create a contiguous parcel to be sold at a higher price. And I guess it's a big question mark of what will the current council allow the developers to do. They've not revealed the plans, they've not revealed the zoning overlay, but they're saying it's going to be sold very quickly. I would love to have more transparency around that. It was such a lightning rod. I did not support the Broad Street West development, but there's zero transparency on what's going to happen next in that very important site for our town.
Chantal, what do you feel is the most underserved constituency in Summit?
I wish I could pick two, but for now, I will go with one, which is our Latino community. I think that there is an opportunity for us to do better in
You
our
can also name the second if you.
Yeah.
seniors is my second. I mean, it's a close tie, but my first one I would say is the Latino community. I think there's a tremendous opportunity for us to offer services to them or information to them on our city websites in Spanish as well as in English. And there's a long way to go to fully complete that exercise. Earlier this year, when the city raised fees for the pool, one of the things that was an argument for why it would still not disenfranchise or disproportionately impact our lower income families was that was financial aid available for, assistance available for those families. But when I went on the website, I realized they didn't even have that available in Spanish. So a lot of our families couldn't fill out the form completely or accurately. They've since changed that at my request. But I think that is my primary opportunity that I see. And again, secondarily, I think our senior population, but I could spend 20 minutes talking about that too.
Great.
So can I take a stab at that?
Sure.
Thanks. So I would like to say Latino seniors. My mother-in-law is Puerto Rican, but she doesn't live in Summit, unfortunately. No, but seriously, the seniors, we had my mom with us for the final 13 years of her life, and we lost her earlier this year. She had her wishes to end her life at home with the excellent care that we were able to pull together in Summit. But it wasn't easy. And I see many seniors in our community that, yes, there are many great organizations serving seniors, but a lot of it is not coordinated and there are clear gaps in that. I would like to see a commission mounted by council bringing together the leading organizations to identify the gaps, identify the strengths, and how they can be addressed. I would have a minimal role for the city. I would rather see this done by the community volunteer organizations because they're doing such a great job already. But I think there are some gaps there that need to be filled, important gaps.
Just to double click on that briefly, unfortunately, under the current council, in the past several months, a group, Silver Summit, which was a subcommittee of the council, was kind of unceremoniously disbanded without really any meaningful explanation. I have put forth a plan in our local TAP to bring Silver Summit back with a few key foundations. I do agree there's a lot of opportunity for partnership, but we need some champions. So we would try to identify certain neighbors around town who have a passion for this work. It could be some amongst us here to make sure that there is coordination, there is facilitation, and great conversations that are happening in support of our seniors.
Okay. Dan, please provide your vision for Summit and how you would work to achieve it. Be sure to include your priorities on how to best serve our community.
Well, a 2-year at-large seat is a short amount of time for significant accomplishments. What I want to put in place is a process for transparency, planning ahead, managing budgets, and then accountability for the results that will hopefully carry beyond my 2-year term. I also want to work to restore civil discourse. There are folks that I'm speaking with in our community, particularly among clergy, focused on the dignity of public discourse, treating neighbors in Summit with dignity as we interact on the important issues facing our community. Social media currently is not helping that process for the most part, and it is a tool for division and polarization. So I would love to see a community-wide effort of faith institutions, civic organizations coming together with the city government to maybe hold ourselves accountable for how each of us is speaking to one another. There's something called the Dignity Index that rates us on the quality of our speech and our interactions. I think something like that could help us move forward into a more harmonious time.
Okay.
And if I may, I just want to add that I've been surprised by how many people I've talked to at Doors who were not aware, had not been informed about some major decisions that were being made by the city that would impact them. And so I would like us, on the point of transparency, to take that even further and find a way to communicate more effectively with all of our residents about important decisions that are coming up at council so they can engage and have a voice.
I think vision is of course really important. We also really believe in listening and the power of conversation. We're committed to conducting ongoing listening sessions with the community outside of council meetings to understand what the community has in their minds for the next 10, 20 years. For me, it's quite simple. It's a community where everyone has access to what they need to thrive, and local government operates with excellence quietly in the background to facilitate that, built on the 3 pillars of public safety, our public schools, and public service.
So Jacqueline, what is the difference between a Republican and a Democrat at the local level?
At the local level, we're all hilltoppers, right? There are a lot of, I believe, shared community values in Summit. We all want beautiful green spaces. We want a vibrant downtown, excellent public schools, support for our seniors. We wish for our seniors to stay here. So I think though there is a lot of uncivil discourse and on social media or otherwise, I think there really is much more that we share in terms of our values than divides us. I won't speak for my Republican colleagues. I'm a proud Democrat because I believe everyone should be expected and respected around the decision table, right? We want to listen to our community. That community resources should be used wisely in the interest of all of the community, not just a privileged few. And a big one for me is investing in our public education. For me, that's a cornerstone of Democrat values that drew me to the party.
And I would, if I may add, I would just, in the simplest way, characterize it as Democrats put the we before me. And I think when making decisions at the council level, we need to reflect the view of the larger community rather than a few vocal people in the community. And so that approach is something I think that is truly a democratic value.
I think there shouldn't be an issue between Republicans and Democrats here in our town. We both volunteer for the same organizations, we're working together, and we care about crime, we care about fighting overdevelopment, we care about largely the same issues. And maybe there's a small subset on the side where there are real disagreements. But I think here in town, those party labels shouldn't mean so much. But in this current toxic environment that's all around us, we're not an island. But each of us does decide how we interact with each other to build a community together.
Thank you.
Okay. Chantal, assuming you are elected, how would you like to be remembered once your term of office has ended?
That's a great question. I think Based on my prior work experience, I worked at Goldman Sachs for 23 years, and one of the superpowers I developed there was working with all kinds of different people and bringing them along to agree on an idea together. And I actually think that that is something unique that I bring to this council, if elected. I hope to be seen as someone who brought people together to collaborate, listen to one another, and work together to solve issues in a transparent way.
So maybe just taking a stab at that, my inspiration for public service comes from my roots in small town Pennsylvania. My parents were both public school teachers. My grandfather was the Maytag man. He passed away when I was 8 years old, and he was very active in the community, never held official positions, but did a lot. And I remember my third grade classmate, Billy, told me my grandfather was a great man. And that's been a guiding star in different ways throughout my life. And giving back in Summit is a little way that I can hopefully achieve what my grandfather did.
We have a 5-year-old daughter, and she told me recently, Mom, I'm counting on you. So for me, it's making her proud. Living in Summit is a childhood dream for me. I hope with the work that we're able to do on council, she will feel the same way, and she will want to live in Summit as an adult and have that be a childhood dream come true for her.
So we'll start with Chantal to just keep the order going, but each of you, please answer this. Is there anything else you would like voters to know about you or your views? This will be our final question.
Sure. I think for me, it's most important for people to know that I'm doing this as a public servant and not a politician. I've been volunteering in the community for years. I volunteer twice a week, every week with Grace, Moms Helping Moms, Junior League, and SEF, and so on. And I really see running for council as an opportunity to level up my volunteerism in the community. And I just want to make sure that people know what my motivations are and what I'm all about.
Jordan, thank you. Thanks for the question. I have experience as a sustainable investment professional working for positive community environmental impact. I've done that most of my career. Early in my career, I was a policy advisor to governments, so I have relevant experience. But what I would leave you with is another why I'm running. 2 years ago, it was February 13th, I was cooking dinner, and I got a call from my daughter, who was just rear-ended by a car right at the corner of Morris Avenue and Summit Avenue by the middle school. The car was totaled. My daughter was screaming. It's so one of the parents' worst nightmares. When I arrived a few minutes later, Summit's finest, police, fire, EMS, had the situation totally under control. Nobody asked whether my daughter lived in town, whether her parents were rich or poor, what church they went to, or any other question. They cared about her, keeping her safe, and making sure she got the care that she needed. That spirit is alive and well in Summit. I think it should get more prominence in our town, and just holding onto that value of what brings us together is something that motivates me as well. And I want to work with the mayor and everyone on council to make Summit the best place it can be.
Jacqueline.
I feel so lucky to be raising my family here. My dad used to work at the old Ciba-Geigy site where Bristol Myers Squibb is now. We would come for family dinners at Winbury's, and my mom would take us to Seal Fawns on Springfield so we could look at all the fancy clothes. What I would love for people to know is that we are doing this work for all in the community to have Summit be the best darn place in America, right? We have everything we need because we have such a wonderful community and we're blessed with a lot of great resources. We feel with the right leadership team, we can make Summit even better and realize that hope of making Summit the best place in our country.
So I just wanted to thank the three of you for raising your hand. You're competing for a job like no other in town. It's probably one of the best jobs in Summit, and it's people like you that make this town work. So thank you for volunteering.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I
Jordan.
appreciate the
I
opportunity.
couldn't agree more. Thank you very much.
Thank you.